Well, it has been a damp end on the day 3 of the second and final test between India and Bangladesh at the Green Park Stadium in Kanpur, as the day 3 has been called off just like day 2 without a ball being bowled. The only difference is that it had rained a lot on day 2, and that's why there was no action possible. But on day 3 there was no rain since morning, and I repeat, there was no rain at all ever since 8:30 a.m. just an hour before when usually the play begins. So that's the thing, as far as the India versus Bangladesh second and final test in Kanpur, it stands that overall across the first 3 days only 35 overs have been possible, with Bangladesh being asked to bat in this match, and they were 107 for 3 after 35 overs on the opening day in the second session. And ever since then, it's been all dark and gloomy as far as the weather is concerned. It has rained a lot. It has been incessant rain. There was no play possible on day 2. But now on day 3, let me just give you, an updates on a 2-hour basis, how things really happened throughout the day today. So at around 9 or 9:15 a.m. there was an update that there's going to be an inspection that will be scheduled at around 10 a.m. IST. Then there was an inspection at 10 a.m. Umpires, they strode to the field, they saw it, and they understood that there are a lot of wet and damp patches specifically around the region wherein the bowlers usually take their mark, and same was also the case around the slip region and also the mid-on and mid-off region. Well, it hadn't really rained since in morning, but then there was a lot of overnight rain. Ground staff, they did a tremendous job just to make sure that at around 9 a.m. some of the covers were actually peeled off, but the main square, the covers on that region were actually there, so there was no reason of removing it because a lot of water had gotten collected, and later obviously it was removed. But ever since then, the only thing that did not help the groundsmen and the relevant stakeholders at the Green Park Stadium was that there was no sun at all. No sun at all, at least at about 12:30 or 1 p.m. So the next the 10 a.m. inspection was actually postponed to the 12 p.m. one, and then also they realized that the wet patches aren't really drying up, and that's why that inspection also got postponed to 2 a.m. and now we had an official update that the play has been called off. So that's the latest update, in case you're joining us, that the India versus Bangladesh Kanpur Test at the Green Park Stadium, well, the third day has been called off without a ball being bowled. It's the second consecutive day in which no play has been possible. But the good news now heading into the final 2 days is that the weather is expected to be a bit more sunny. There will be intermittent clouds, but the chances of precipitation or rain, as we say, they have been reduced significantly. So there's very less rain expected, and it goes on to say that the two teams will now have 98 overs each on the remaining 2 days of the test match, the penultimate day and the final day, to try and have a result. So that's how basically things stand. And as far as India's chances of the World Test Championship final are concerned, what it really goes on to show here is that India, that despite a draw, and if it really happens, India would still top the table. Now this 10 matches will obviously increase to 11, then 7 wins, 2 losses, and there would be another draw. A total of points for India from here would be 90, assuming there is not any deduction in the because of a slow over it, because India did bowl the required 38 overs within the stipulated mark, and India's PCT, but it would be reduced to around 68.19. It's a proper story that I have done as far as the World Test Championship final scenarios of India, Australia, Sri Lanka, New Zealand and the other teams are concerned, and Pakistan and England are eliminated from the competition, and so is the case with West Indies. So what it will do to India's chances here is that it wouldn't really hamper their chances that much, but then what they would really have to make sure going on from here is that they would have to win at least 4 matches so as to make sure that they stay alive in the World Test Championship final race. And if India can win let's assume that if this match ends in a draw and if India win 5 of their remaining 8 matches, then they would be assured of a place in the World Test Championship final. And as for Bangladesh, well, after this match they'll have a total of 4 matches remaining. They're going to be 2 against South Africa at home and 2 is going to be against West Indies. It's going to be an away series for them, and even if they win all their remaining 4 matches, they wouldn't be guaranteed of a spot in the final, because then they would still have to rely on the other results, because their percentage of points earned despite winning those 4 matches, if it really happens, would still be 59.07, and usually the cutoff that we look for the top 2 teams to qualify for the final is around 60%. So that's where Bangladesh might still miss out, but then all hope will not be lost for Bangladesh. So that's about it. Bangladesh are still trailing 1-0 in the series. They will have a couple of days to try and force a result. India, on the other hand, literally have nothing to lose in the series, because they already are 1-0 up, and they would look to make sure that that they bundle Bangladesh out as quickly as possible and get a good first innings score, a good first innings lead, so as to secure a chance of bowling out Bangladesh again in the same match. So before we wrap things up, let's just take a few comments here. Yeah. So yeah, obviously, a lot of questions are being asked about the drainage system here. Well, yes, that is the case. Bhavik Shankar says that there is poor drainage. I think obviously drainage facilities aren't really up to the mark as far as the Green Park Stadium is concerned. Well, it was already in the news ahead of the test match. Also, there was a controversy around the balcony C stand, that it's not really ready. There had to be a lot of engineering work that had to be done, and that's why a total of 1700 tickets out of the required 4800 tickets were only available for were only on sale. And secondly, the thing was also that the floodlights were an issue. Around 8 to 10 bulbs weren't really functioning ahead of the start of the test match. And now with this thing happening, with the Kanpur really going through an issue that they do not really have a proper drainage system, well, I think it's going to raise a lot of question marks about the preparation of the stadium here, and the stakeholders will definitely have a tough meeting with the likes of the BCCI and the relevant stakeholders in India's top cricket board. Priyanshu has a comment that no rain, sun also, still not a single ball, pathetic. Yeah, I think it's not a good spectacle for the cricket fans also. It also takes me back to that final test of the India's tour of West Indies in 2016, and there also there was rain on just the opening day of the test, and on the remaining 4 days it was completely sunny, yet there was no play, primarily because of the drainage system. These things obviously do happen in cricket, and the very least that we can obviously say that it's not really a good thing, but then there has to be a way out by the boards to make sure that it does not really happen on a frequent basis, and not even on a occasional basis also, because it's not really good for test cricket. It's not good for the fans who come from a long distance to watch such kind of matches. Frickin' Awesome has a comment that India have won the most number of away test matches since the beginning of the World Test Championship in 2019. That's right, it's obviously 11 matches. And Rahul has a comment that Australia and England will require only 30 minutes of drainage system facilities. Well, I think that is really the case with them. Their drainage, specifically in Australia, England and New Zealand, are brilliant. But then we also have to take things into consideration that, how can the BCCI take a cue from the likes of the stakeholders at the Eden Gardens, and also from the required, from the important ground stuff as far as the Sri Lanka cricket is concerned. And why I took the specific, specific names of Eden Gardens and the Sri Lankan cricket stakeholders, because when, it rains in Sri Lanka, in any of the Sri Lankan stadium, let's say it's Gaul or maybe Premadasa Stadium, or in, Eden Gardens, they cover the whole ground. And that's what, you would want to do, and you would want to work more on the soil also, so that, it absorbs the rain, that has actually poured down. I think there's a lot of work that remains to be done, and that's where I think the likes of the relevant stakeholders from Green Park, they can take a cue from someone at Eden Gardens, and also someone at the Sri Lankan cricket. And Is there a Bala Guhan has a question that is there a reserve day? No, there is no reserve day for this test match and only 2 days are remaining. And Nikhil has a question that are India's chances now in jeopardy for the final test match championship? No, it doesn't really put India's chances in jeopardy. What it actually does is that it reduces India's, if this match ends in a draw, it reduces India's percentage of points won from 71 to about 68, approximately 69. So what India going on from this test would really have to do, after this test would really have to do, is win 5 of their remaining 8 matches, and if they do that, they would be sure of a place in the World Test Championship final. And if India go on to obviously defeat Australia, let's say by a margin of 2-1 or a 3-1, then the potential series between series between Australia and Sri Lanka, it would become a potential shootout. Most likely the winner of that might go on to face India in the World Test Championship final, assuming India defeat Australia for 3rd time in a row down under. So that's about it as far as the day 3 of the Kanpur Test between India and Bangladesh is concerned. Well, another damp day, no ball being bowled, no action possible, and play has been called off. We'll be back tomorrow for all the live updates of the day 4 of the India versus Bangladesh Kanpur Test. But until then, stay tuned to Sports Today. Keep subscribing, keep loving our videos. Your love really matters a lot to us, and we'll obviously be doing a lot of videos on the IPL retention policy that has been announced by the BCCI, the IPL Governing Council, yesterday. So stay tuned to Sports Today, and we'll bring you all the latest updates and analysis from the sporting world.